Hello everyone and welcome to another Fat Thoughts. It is of course that time of the year again where I talk about last year's games some way through this year, the next year, the 2022. We're talking about 2021 games in 2022. Whenever this video ends up getting done, who knows when it's going to come out. There's been plenty of video games for us to enjoy, especially on the Switch, which is still my primary console of choice. It's my only console that I have that I actively play games on. So yeah, like always, all the games that I talk about today are going to be all about the Switch. And what a year for the Switch it's been. We went in with such a not knowing where, what games are going to be coming out, and then I remember the E3 that they had this year was brilliant because it just announced a load of game franchises and games that I was not expecting at all, and games that they hadn't done in quite a few years. So it was really surprising and just really enjoyable as well. And this year was a weird one for me because in 2020 I said that I didn't want to get as many games as I got in 2019 because I got so many, and I really enjoyed them, don't get me wrong, but I was like, I'm going to be more conservative with which games I buy. But then this year I think I might have got even more, but the quality has just been so consistently high that I've been looking forward to making this video because there is a lot I want to talk about. And to be fair, you can probably see behind me, but the shelf is slouching, and that's how you can tell how many games I got this year, because when I have to take them all off and put them on the floor like ready for me to talk about, that's what happens. And I think that's probably the biggest slouch I've seen so far. So we're going to get straight into it in a minute, but I guess I just want to talk about a couple honourable mentions. Just not games that came out this year, but just games I've been playing this year that meant something to me or are significant in some way. So I want to touch on those first, but just if this is the first games of the year for my channel that you've seen, just know that any game that came out in the last year is eligible. So it can be a remaster, it can be a re-release, it can be a game that came out on the Switch this year, but it come out on other systems years ago. Let's just get straight into it, the good old tier list format, and let's see which games came out on top this year. Although I've got to say, there's a lot of good ones. There is so many good games this year. So let's get straight into it with my honourable mentions. So the first game I want to talk about is Immortals Fenyx Rising. So this game came out at the end of 2019. Yeah, was it the end of... No, 2020, sorry. Jesus Christ, I'm not that far in the past. Yeah, 2020 it came out, and I got it for Christmas. And yeah, I didn't have time to talk about it that year because I didn't play it. And then this year for me, it's been a big change for me, personally. And when I learned that, these changes that were going to be happening in the year, Immortals was the game that I had sort of started playing. And it's going to be one of those games where I will always pair this game with how I felt at that time, and that was just like really just huge amount of uncertainty about what I was going to do and how the year was going to go, and just thinking, and I just needed some escapism and what have you. And Immortals didn't really give me that. It's a very weirdly somber game for me to think about now, because if I think I'm all good now, but at the time I was playing the game I was like just filled with worry and just not knowing where things were going to go, and I'll always remember that time period when playing this game. So when I play this game now, I can look back with good hindsight, do you know what I mean? Because it's all over now and everything's fine. So playing the game is like being transported back, but now that I know that things get better and what have you, or things work themselves out, then it's weird. It's like I like it just because I know it gets better, sort of thing. It's very strange, but the game itself was actually very brain numbing, but in the best ways possible, I suppose you could say. It's a strange one because it took such massive influence from Breath of the Wild, and it's Ubisoft's sort of take on that format. And I haven't played many modern Ubisoft games in a long time. The last Ubisoft game I think I played was like a Rayman game or something years ago. So I was not used to the amount that they pelt you with. You need to get on Uplay and get the achievements, and all these things are popping up, and these things that pop up and you can buy them, and you can get the DLC now if you pre-order this first. And I was like, oh my god, I forgot how terrible Ubisoft are with this kind of thing. As soon as you boot up the game, the massive terms and conditions agreement comes up, and I'm like, fuck off. I hate that shit. Everything that I don't like about modern gaming came up with Immortals, unfortunately. And I remember at one point it said like you have to make an account and sign in online to be able to play the game. I thought, that's fucking ridiculous, I'm not doing that. So I'd actually found a way to just I think I just disconnected from the internet and you can play the game. But if it feels you're connected to the internet, it'll always ask you, would you like to, would you like to log in so you can play? Just won't let you get past this barrier. And eventually I just got sick of being able to disconnect from the internet every time. So I did end up signing up, and I still get emails from them now like, oh, you can spend your Uplay points. I'm not playing your shit game anymore. Anyway, if the game isn't shit, to be fair, it's not shit at all. It made me realise everything that Breath of the Wild did right in comparison. The world was decently interesting. Characters were like this goofy sort of cartoony comedic take on the Greek gods, which I actually kind of liked. I liked that it was a light-hearted story and it didn't take itself too seriously. Definitely took inspiration from Breath of the Wild there, because there's barely any story. The world's massive, but it's just not really steeped in any history or anything interesting in the context of the world. You might see like in Zelda, what have you, when you see like the ruined Temple of Time or what have you. That's exciting because you know what the Temple of Time is. Maybe you wouldn't have got that if you hadn't played a Zelda game before, but for people who are big fans of the series, that kind of stuff the Lost Forest, Lost Forest, that's what it's called, isn't it? Yeah, the Lost Forest. Am I thinking of something else? The Lost Forest. I feel like I'm saying it wrong, but whatever. But it was a bit like that, where you see these landmarks in Zelda history, and it's really exciting to find them, just to be in that presence and see what's different about it this time. Immortals didn't have that, so a lot of the places you'd explore didn't feel like they had any significance to anything really. And I mainly played it while listening to podcasts and stuff like that, because it feels like a massive checklist. The combat is brilliant though, I will not take away from that. The combat was really fun, and I still had fun with it. I didn't complete the game, I got very close though, but it was one of them where I look back and I thought, I put like 70 hours into that, and it wasn't even a game that I thought I particularly really liked. I would just say that it was just alright really. But it was a game that I could just go on and not really, like I said, when I just needed to run around and just sort of chill out for a bit because of everything else was going on. It was a good game to be able to do that with. So Immortals, a weird one. I really appreciate what it did for me, even though it didn't really do much. It's a very strange one for me, but a big honourable shout out to Immortals. Now the next game is old AF, as they would say, and that's Pokemon Fire Red. So this game has been, part of my life for, well, let's say, 18 years now. I cannot believe it's 18. I could pour alcohol in it and it'll be legal. I can't believe it, but that's time for you, isn't it? But yeah, this sort of leads on from the story of what happened with Immortals. I was a bit uncertain and just needed something to take my mind off it, and my best friend, said to me, because lockdown was happening again, so none of us could really see each other and what have you, he said, why don't we do, instead of meeting up, why don't we do a video call, but while we're chatting and catching up with each other and what have you, we can start playing through Fire Red Leaf Green again, because these two games were so important to me and my best friend growing up that we had such a bond over them. We were friends beforehand, but then these games just really brought us together, and it's sort of glued us together ever since really. And although he went off Pokemon sort of toward the later end, I don't think he played Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield, it's always been something there, and these two games for us are two of the biggest games of our childhood. So going through that together was it was great. It was such a nostalgia trip, and when I first got our first wireless battles with it, or multiplayer battles were with each other, and I always remember the day that I went over to his on Christmas Day, and I whipped out my Game Boy, he whipped out his, and I said, let's try link up. And we had a battle for the first time. It blew my mind that I was battling someone else in the game, like an actual human player, and I think it was the same way for him as well. And yeah, we just had such a blast playing through it again, and to the point where we said I don't think we've ever been that transported back to when we were kids. It was we were in our own little bubble, and we were just so excited to get back playing this game. Even though I've played the game loads of times before, but this time was just so magical. There was a point where he's never been into the battling side of it, and never really grasped the competitive side. At one point he said, shall we have a battle when we finish the session? I think we was probably around the Pokemon Tower area. And I said, well, yeah, if you want to, yeah, let's do it. And then we started battling, and it ended up becoming a recurring thing where it was like, okay, after every session that we have, every few hours that we play, let's have a battle and see how our team. But we can only use the resources that the game has give us. So we can't EV train or anything like that. You can only catch the Pokemon that you want and teach them the moves that are available to you. And it became such a cool thing to do, and such an exciting thing for us to do, something we look forward to every week. And we loved it so much that when we got to the end of Fire Red, I was like, right, we need to go and get you the rest of the games that you've missed out, and we'll play through the rest of them. And that's what we've been doing. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't get the Pokemon 4th Gen remakes this year, because by the time that they came out, we were already on to Platinum. We've played Fire Red, Leaf Green, we've played Emerald, we've literally just finished Platinum. So we're going for all of them, and it's still such an exciting thing. And he's got way better at the battling now. We have like one final battle in the game, then we class that's who won that game, sort of thing. And he won Platinum. Very, very close battles, very exciting, but just really cool battles. And it's something that's, you know, my love for Pokemon's been revitalised because of that, because for quite a few years now, and I'll probably talk about this in a separate video, but my love for the series has been waning quite a bit, and this has just brought it back. And it's just very weird that it's an old game to do it instead of a new one, but it's same for him as well. We've got straight back on the Pokemon train, not looking too forward to when we get to the newer games, so we're trying to savour the older games as much as we can. But every time we get together, especially for the Gen 3 games, when we battle, we'd do it on the GameCube over XD, Gale of Darkness, and then I'd record it, and we could watch our battles back and think about what we could do better for the next battle. And it was just, I don't know, I love it to pieces, and I love that we're still doing it. But that playthrough of Fire Red, Leaf Green, that will live on with me for a long time, because that's some of the best times I've had playing video games in general. So Fire Red, it's the gift that keeps on giving for me. Now, I do apologise, because this is where the games of the year are actually starting, but I've got so many here and I cannot remember the chronological release dates, so I'm just going to sort of pick up the one and go, eh. So the first one up is WarioWare Let's Get It Together. Oh no, it's just Get It Together. There's no let's in there. It's just Get It Together. I should get it together. God damn it, Ben. But WarioWare is a series that I absolutely love. It's a series that I originally played. It was either on the 3DS with the Ambassador program, or it was when I went to one of my best friends, Gavin's, and he sat us down and went, we need to play this. No, we sat down and played WarioWare Mega Party micro games, I think, on the GameCube, and it was me, my friend Tom, and Gavin, and we had such a blast. I think that's one of the reasons why WarioWare means a lot to me, is because we played that game, and it was the first game we played when we first met each other in person, which was 11 years ago now. Even going past Mega Party micro games or what have you, I've enjoyed every WarioWare game I've played. I haven't played all of them. I played Mega Party micro games. I played WarioWare Inc. I think the first one's called, on the Game Boy Advance. I played that, obviously. I played Smooth Moves. No, Smooth Moves was the first one that I played, but I didn't play a huge amount of it. And I loved that one on the Wii. I remember the guy with the really monotone guy who's like the pointer, and he just tells you how to use the Wii remote. That was some of the funniest bits of the game. And that's the thing, that the WarioWare series is so funny, it's so zany, but it's so unique. It's so unique. And I was saying, you couldn't imagine any other big game company like PlayStation or Microsoft putting out a game like this. And I think the only reason Nintendo's been able to is because they've been successful with the Switch. I don't think they would have done this if they were struggling like they did with the Wii U. They'd still be pumping out Mario games every month. But yeah, for WarioWare, that was one of the big surprises of the year when we had E3, and I was so excited for it. This one changed it up in a way as well, because previous games like WarioWare Gold, for example, which was a great amalgamation, probably still the best WarioWare game, to be honest, in terms of content and the things you got in it. But you had like the usual button controls, and then you had touch controls and gyro controls in it. In Let's Get It Together, it's like the best way to evolve a series, but it might be a one-time thing, it might be come back for another thing. I love it. You actually control the characters in the microgames now, and it makes every microgame somewhat different with each character, and you need to really learn how to control each character, because this game can be harder than the other WarioWare games, because when a microgame comes up, it's always going to be slightly different because of the character that you get put with. And I love that. I love the game to pieces. I've had such a good time with it. I'm still doing all the Wario Cup challenges when I get a chance to. Tom and Gavin came round not long ago and we actually played it together. That was a really cool thing. And there's still a ton of modes for you to enjoy in multiplayer. And we had such a good time with it. I don't think the game is, like, multiplayer-wise, is as strong as, say, Mega Party micro games, but it's still a fantastic multiplayer party game. I've got to say, it's one of my favourite on the Switch now. I think it's going to be a really underrated game for the Switch, but it's not full price like normal Nintendo games are. You can probably get it for around £30, so for me that's a massive steal. And we've got kind of an in-joke now going on, because I bought both Tom and Gavin the game for I think it was for birthday and Christmas, so apparently that's just what I do now. I just give out WarioWare. But WarioWare Get It Together, yeah, Absolutely one of the best party games. If I had any flaws with it, I'd probably just say that some of the characters are just so much worse than the others, and I like that, but at the same time, you'll have a really good run, and then a micro game will come up, and it'll be a character who's really bad at that micro game, and you just feel like you've been cheesed out of it because the game's decided to pair you with a shit character. So sometimes it feels a bit more RNG than skill compared to other WarioWare games, but that makes it more frantic. In a way, it makes it more fun, especially for multiplayer. But you know, this and another party game that Nintendo released this year, which I'll talk about in a bit, they felt like such GameCube era games, and that was brilliant. That was great to see, because that era of Nintendo just felt like every game had such a good amount of content, a good amount of things to do, and it was just full of fun, and everything was thought out, and that's how I felt about WarioWare. I think it's one of the best games on the Switch, personally. So next up is The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, and this is an American copy, because for some reason they didn't want to release it physically in Europe. But no, in all seriousness, I had so much fun with the original trilogy on Switch, which I got a physical copy up there because my friend Martin gave me it for my birthday a couple of years ago, and it was one of those presents where, you know, where you thought about getting it and you're on the fence, but you're like, I don't know if I really should. And over here, it was only out here digitally, and when Martin gave me a present and I thought, oh, a Switch game, I opened it up and I was like, oh my god, it's Phoenix, this trilogy that I actually I wanted physically, and he went out of his way and got it for me, and it's just one of the best presents I think I could have gotten, because it's something that he knew he didn't know that I wanted it. He just thought, oh, Ben might like this game, and I did. I absolutely loved it. I think 3 of the best visual novels ever, and they made me a fan of the visual novel genre. You know, not only have I got Great Ace Attorney Chronicles that come out this year, but there's also the Danganronpa collection that I've also got that I want to start soon as well. So visual novels, I never thought I'd be into them in the way that I am now, especially if they're as good as, Ace Attorney. And Ace Attorney has such a incredible sense of humour. They are actually some of the funniest games I've ever played, and it's one of those where you can just tell the quality of the writing, from that to a very bog standard, badly written game, or just very I hate to keep digging on Pokemon, but I've given them a lot of praise this video so far. But if you think about Pokemon characters and what have you, it's just such boring dialogue. It's so cookie cutter. Whereas like the Ace Attorney games is full of character and personality and very well written out characters, and they were well animated in the original trilogy, and here it's a collection of the 3DS games, so everyone's got a 3D model now. I don't think I can express how insanely talented the people who made this game must have been, because they perfectly translated how the sprites look and move and feel into the way the models feel and look. That's something that I feel like they might have lost in translation a bit, but they absolutely nailed it. It was such an amazing blast. I've got nearly 100 hours I played the game. You've got the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles Adventures and the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles 2 Resolve, and they're amazing. I still think that maybe my favourite Ace Attorney game is Trials and Tribulations, just because the cases in that game were they rounded out the whole trilogy, but in just like a mind-blowing, incredibly satisfying way. And me and my friend Tim were talking about this a bit, but he was saying that he thinks if you only played the first game of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, if that was the only game, it might feel a bit underwhelming, because a lot of the plot threads get figured out in the second game. And the original trilogy didn't feel like that too much. It did feel like, if you could play the first game of the original trilogy and be happy with the conclusion, but the way that they made it evolve, it felt like they were evolving it throughout the games, the trilogy, whereas with the duology, it feels like they always had a set goal of where they wanted to go, which is fine. And to be honest, overall, I think I prefer the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles over the original trilogy. They're both amazing, both some of my favourite games of all time. I don't know what it is about this one. I think it might be the setting. It was old England, so they had a lot of English stereotypes and sayings that we say, and I loved it. I loved how much they took the piss out of us, and also they showed us taking the piss out of other people. It was such a fun game, such a cosy game, I guess you could say. I loved sitting down a couple hours before going to bed and it was like, reading a book, but it was doing the visual novel, and it was so much fun, and the music is incredible. I don't think it'll be as iconic as the music in the original trilogy, which was just out of this world, but this one is so good as well, and just adds to the drama and the intensity of all these scenes. And I think Herlock Sholmes, which when I first tried saying his name, I was like, Herlock Holmes? Herlock Sholmes? I couldn't get it out of my mouth, whereas now, hearing Sherlock Holmes sounds weird because this character is based on Sherlock Holmes, but he's one of my favourite characters ever in gaming now, I think, because he's so charismatic, but sometimes he says like the wrong things, then he just laughs it off. People are like chastising him for it, and he just does a little dance and then swivels off to do his detective work, and it's just so strange but so funny. And every time he was on screen I was like, okay, we're going to get a laugh out of this, and there were some of the funniest moments. He was incredible. I loved all the characters as well. I thought that at first it was just going to be a replay of Ryonosuke, I think that's how you pronounce it, and then you have Susato, his judicial assistant. I thought she was going to be like the mayor of the game, but she's not. She is her own character. You know, it is the same dynamic, but she's not like Mayo. She's not like a bit more airheaded, I guess. She's like, it's very hard to explain because that's what I mean. Like, not all the characters are one-dimensional. They've all got layers to them in different ways, and there are so many funny moments, but it's also interspliced with some really serious moments, and really, you know, I'd say it up in the game, I won't lie. That's how powerful the writing is and how powerful I think the game is. So yeah, great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Please give it a go. If you like the original trilogy, there's no reason not to try this out. And this one's got a load of bonuses in the game as well, like extra costumes for the characters in the second game. I'm not too sure why I can't use them in the first, but in the second game you can. You've got a ton of extra chapters to play, which actually I've just reminded me now, I haven't done them yet, so I can't wait to go back and play them. They're like little slice of life episodes that you can just relax and have a good time with. And then there's also the promotional material for the game and videos and stuff like that. There's like a crossover with Phoenix Wright in a video. I think it was for the orchestra of the game, musical orchestra that they had in Japan a few years ago. And just having all those things on the game is such a big celebration of the series. And I don't know if this was like an anniversary game. I don't know if it came out for like the series 15th anniversary or what have you, but it might as well have done, because it's got such, like, even with the music, like you can go into the music player and then it'll tell you the composer's thoughts on how he made the game, and that's something that you wouldn't get in nearly every game. You know, there's not a single other game this year that's done that I've gotten. And having developer commentary on stuff like that is great. It doesn't take you out of the game because you're already looking through the special contents of the game. So great Ace Attorney Chronicles, absolutely one of my favourite games this year. Loved it. Now, as far as I know, this one is the first game that I actually got this year, and it's Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. It's about time indeed, because this took, was it another year to come to the Switch after the other releases, which is a bit strange. And also this is an American copy because Activision were just really weird about releasing a physical copy in Europe for some time. Like, they have done now, but I was like, I'm not waiting, I'm getting it. Crash Bandicoot is a franchise that I don't think I give enough love. I mean, I made a review on some of the Game Boy Advance games this year, which was really fun to do. And it's a series that it's so important to my interest in video games in general. You know, Crash Bandicoot was the first console game that I played ever. I just haven't really stuck with the series since then. You know, I played obviously 2 Entranced on the Game Boy Advance, but I didn't stick with any of the weird ones like Mind Over Mutant and what have you. I sort of just lost interest in him. And then when Crash Bandicoot the Insane trilogy came out, it was just, I'm all in again. And I thought, if they can actually make a game like this, but you know, maybe a bit evolved for a modern day audience, with the next game, with Crash 4, I was going to be blown away, and I sort of was with Future Tense at the end of Crash 3, and I thought, this is a brilliant level. So they can do that with a new game with their own ideas and what have you. It's going to be amazing. And at first I was a bit worried because it was Toys for Bob who were making Crash 4. And at the time I didn't know that they did the Insane Trilogy port, the Switch port. I thought with their, you know, Spyro Trilogy was good, but you know, it didn't all fit on one disc or on the cart. People complained about the motion blur a bit. So I thought, oh no, I'd rather Vicarious Visions do it. And you know, complete credit to Toys for Bob, because they made probably the best Crash game of all time. It was such a good 3D platformer in a time where making platformers seems to really evade, like making good platformers seems to really evade certain developers. They just can't seem to get it properly. But Crash 4 was everything I wanted it to be. I played a bit of it when it came out on the PlayStation at a friend's house, and I thought, this is amazing. I really hope this comes to Switch. It did, and it was the game that also made me realise that the Switch is, I really wish the Switch was more powerful. You know, the graphics look great. It is pushing the Switch to its limit, this game. It looks incredible, but at the same time, you see close-ups of the characters or close-ups of certain areas, and like the textures look a bit off, and the characters look a bit, you know, at one point, it was like right in Crash's face, and it was almost like there was little black dots in his eyes, because it was like the game couldn't load the whole model. It was very strange, but at the end of the day, none of it really mattered because the level design is just so good. It really is taking the original Crash formula and evolving it into a modern day 3D platformer. You know, it's still the Crash design that you love, you know and love, going through the corridor, getting to the, getting to the end, but getting gems, getting crystals, it's all that. There's so much more to collect this time as well, which makes the 100% of this game a bit impossible, really. But there's so much to do it, and that's one of the things that is going to keep me coming back, because it is the one game this year that I've really wanted to go back to, and I just haven't got around to it yet. But I really want to go back to it because there's just so many things to do. Like, even after I've completed the main game, there's alternate versions of these levels to go through. There's all the death routes to do, and there's all the skins to collect, which at first I thought, oh no, this is like Crash Team Racing. There's going to be some sort of microtransaction nonsense coming out soon. But there wasn't. There never was. And the skins are I've not really used any, because I haven't really, I just like default Crash. I'm a default guy, when I play Smash, for the most part, I always play the default skins, so I'm a default guy. But yeah, for the most, it's nice that they're there, and there's some really cool skins as well, like Classic Crash. You can play from like the really polygonal Crash Bandicoot from the first game. The music was also great as well. Not a huge amount of it was really memorable, but it was great when you were playing the game. And then there's some really imaginative areas that Crash explores that he's never done before, like futuristic cities where you have to jump over flying burger vans and that. And I don't know, it was just so cool. The voice acting was fantastic as well. I think they pretty much got back everyone who had voiced the voices before. Cortex was a standout for sure. And I actually really like the new character designs now. I was a bit iffy on them at first, but now I really do enjoy them. And their interactions between each other were brilliant as well. I'm so worried that because of this game's the sales didn't meet Activision's expectations, so I'm sort of worried that they're not going to make any more Crash games, which it'd be such a shame after this masterpiece to not follow on from it and make any more. But now that they've been bought by Microsoft, that's my main takeaway with that was like, right, we might get more Crash and Spyro, because they seem to have just dropped them both completely, because they actually made Toys for Bob, the developer of the game, go on to work on Call of Duty, which apparently they do with all their studios. So yeah, Crash 4 was one of my favourite games of the year. Loved it, absolutely loved it to pieces. And there was also tons of nostalgic throwbacks for me. Going into the flashback tapes was essentially you playing through levels that Cortex created before Crash 1 to train Crash to be like this weapon. But it had the old music, it had the old aesthetic, it was brilliant. It was like playing bonus levels from the first game, but in Crash 4. So yeah, tons of stuff to love about Crash 4. I don't think I've even mentioned it all here, but I loved it to pieces. Now next up is the other party game that I was talking about earlier that has just been so incredibly amazing, and that is Mario Party Superstars. This year was so good for me because it just made me fall in love with so many series that I haven't really been in love with for a long time, and Mario Party was one of them. The last Mario Party game that I loved was Mario Party 8. Yeah, I loved Mario Party 8, and every one after the Mario Party 9, every single one after that has just been so underwhelming. It's so different, and it's pretty much as soon as Hudson Soft left the series, after they left to develop, I think they got dissolved or something actually, didn't they? I can't remember where they went, but after ND Cube took over, after Wii Party, which I thought was a good game, they just seemed to not understand what made Mario Party so good. And the Mario Party 9, you could sort of let them off because it was experimental, and I know quite a lot of people liked Mario Party 9. I remember playing it. I think I played a couple of boards, was not a fan at all. I think the car made the game even more look-based than it was already, which I don't think it was that look-based, because you could force people into a lucky situation, but it was all, the way you did that was through strategy. And Mario Party just didn't become about that eventually. And Super Mario Party came out, and I thought that people were saying this is a step in the right direction, and that is, I've got to be honest, that's one of my biggest pet peeves in gaming, is when it's like, oh well, it's a step in the right direction. It's like, why is it a step though? Why isn't it not just the full thing? Do you know what I mean? I don't want to buy a game, or I don't want to support a game that is a step in the right direction. It's got something about what I loved about the original. No, I'm going to buy it when it is like the originals, or the ones that I like. And that's what Mario Party Superstars was. The main bit I will say is the fact that it had online parties. The first time a Mario Party game is launched with online multiplayer, full online multiplayer for the boards and the mini games, and it's been absolute magic playing it with my friends. I really want to play it more, but it really has. It's been an absolute blast every time we play it. It's one of the best multiplayer games on the Switch now, easily. with Super Mario Party, because it was very limited in the online way that you could play, it didn't hit that same level as Mario Party Superstars. I think a big part of it is the fact that Superstars is also almost a remake collection kind of the N64 games. You know, it's got all the N64. It's got some, very few to be fair, very few boards. It's got 5 boards altogether, which I will admit is a low number considering the fact that, you know, of how many boards the first 3 Mario Party games have got. It's also weird that it seems like it's very focused on the N64, because the N64's got, they only have N64 boards and they have mostly N64 mini games. So it made me sort of think, why not focus this on N64 altogether, and then maybe in Mario Party Superstars 2 you focus on the GameCube stuff. But I didn't mind too much, to be fair, because it was kind of like, it was almost like they wanted to retry the Mario Party, the top 100 on the 3DS, which bombed because everyone was like, there's no board, you know what I mean? The games are fun, the mini games are fun, but there's not any proper boards to supplement the mini games. And that's what this game has done. It's pretty much been the closest to the original 1 to 8 plus DS, I guess, Mario Parties as it's ever been. My only issue with it is the amount of lucky spaces they've put down. It just seems like MDQ want you to always have something. You know, you can't just land on a blue space and get 3 coins. No, you have to land on a space and it always has to do something, and it just, when you get too frantic, it takes away from the strategy and it doesn't make it as fun. And that's what they've done with their other games as well, like Mario Party 10 and Super Mario Party to some extent as well, with the custom dice blocks and the pair up and what have you, which I didn't play that game, but I played a few rounds of it. But I played a crap load of Mario Party Superstars, and apart from the lucky space issue, which it's not really an issue, because I feel like everyone gets coins quite easily, but very rarely feels like you can just get coins whenever. You know, you still want to have moments of people just like, oh crap, I'm absolutely on my arse. I've got no stars, I've got zilch coins, I need to think of a strategy to get these coins back and what have you. You want to do that, you don't want the game to just throw stuff at you, because then it gets too brain dead. Lucky Mario Party Superstars isn't like that, but I do wish that it had less lucky spaces, and I wish it had a few more boards. But apart from that, I've had such a good time with this game, and it's just made me so in love with Mario Party again. Mario Party has been some of the best multiplayer experiences I've had when gaming. You know, Mario Party DS is probably the most I've played. It used to be me, my sister, and 2 friends around the corner. We always used to get together and play Mario Party DS, and it was just such a magical, I keep saying magical, but it really was. It was such a amazing time period. And you know, sometimes we'd actually get them round and we'd play some of the GameCube games and what have you. Mario Party 7 was like the most elusive game for me for such a long time, because I wanted to buy it but it was so expensive, and then lo and behold it was Gavin who saw it and said, hey Ben, Mario Party 7, bargain mate, bargain, get it. That's not how Gavin would ever talk, but that's how I took it. So I wish that you could also play with randoms, but with a friend. So I wish you and your friend could get into a room and then randoms could join. There's been a lot of talk about DLC for this game, and it sold very well, so it might get some DLC. I don't think Super Mario Party did though, did it? Apart from the online mode added eventually, which I've got to say as well quickly, the online for this game, considering it's a Nintendo online game, it's one of the best Nintendo online games I've played. Very rarely do I ever get a stutter or a bad game. If you drop out, you can actually reconnect. You know, if you get disconnected, you can actually just reconnect and jump straight back in, which has happened with us a few times. Just been crafted very, very well. And again, like the WarioWare like earlier, I think it's one of Nintendo's most GameCube era style games that they've released on the Switch, and that's great because GameCube games are absolute bangers, and Mario Party Superstars, an absolute banger, and I'll be playing it like the other Mario Parties. This is what I want. This is one of the reasons why I'm not keen on DLC for it, because I still play the GameCube Mario Parties. You know, whenever I have friends around who are interested in my area of gaming, I'm like, let's get the Mario Party, and we always have some of the best times, and we still play those games years later. I don't want Mario Party Superstars to get DLC, because then you're not going to be getting the full game years later. You know, if you've bought the game later on, that years down the line, once you can't get the DLC anymore, what have you, you're not going to get the full game experience. And it is great how it is now. So I honestly just want the sequel to this game to have a lot more to it, and I'll get that game as well. And call me a Nintendo shill if you want, but I would rather have that than DLC, which will make the game in years not complete, and people will miss out on content from this amazing game. So yeah, if you're looking for a multiplayer game, not just to play with friends, but also to play with randoms online, because you've got somehow Nintendo have made communicating without voice chat incredible. These stickers that they've got for the game I thought was going to be incredibly annoying, but they're actually so well done. You've got to reply when people send out a sticker. You've got a sticker to reply to it, and I don't know, you've got a sticker for nearly every occasion, and it's brilliant. You get some really funny interactions with that. In fact, if you want to see some funny interactions, go to Gaming98 on Twitter, because honestly half his Twitter account now is just dumping Mario Party clips, and some of them are hilarious. So Mario Party Superstars, it's between that and WarioWare, I'd say, for the best multiplayer game I've played this year. Might just slip it to Mario Party though. Amazing game. It really is like 2019. There's a shit ton of games to get through. I'm having to change clothes because I'm having to do multiple recording sessions, and yeah, it's a big repeat, I think. Hopefully the video ain't going to be like 2 hours long. I say that now, but sorry future Ben. Sorry future Ben in editing. The only thing I ain't got is a cup of tea that I had last time because I ran out of sugar and I didn't think to get any, so that is on me. I'll give it that one. That one is on me. But we continue on, and we're continuing on with a big return for a certain franchise, and that's Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. So Super Monkey Ball was a game I first got introduced to. I think it was on the Wii. I think it was Banana Blitz. Is that the one on the Wii? It's the one that everyone wasn't too fond of, and I wasn't really, to be honest, either. Around that time, to be honest, like, throughout most of my life, really, I haven't really been into many arcadey games. You know, I've been mainly into like I suppose platformers can be classed as arcadey, but I wanted one where it wasn't like an endless thing. You know, you were going from level to level, there was a story, a theme, you know, all that kind of thing. And I suppose Monkey Ball does have that, but it looks like a game you'd play in the arcade, whereas I don't think Crash Bandicoot does really, so that's how I sort of differentiated it. But yeah, no, I wasn't really massively into arcade games unless it was like a really short one like Dig Dug or something like that. I really dug them. But anyway, in recent years I have I've come to like arcade games a lot more, and I think part of that is because of Monkey Ball. A few years ago, it was my friend Martin's New Year house party. We played like a load of drinking games and stuff like that, and I think it was when we were quite a bit piddled. We stuck on Monkey Ball. It was Monkey Ball 2, I think, on the GameCube. The fact that you could play through the game, like sort of competitively with other players who had their own lives, it was like who can get the furthest sort of thing, and that was so much fun, especially once we've had a bit to drink, so we didn't really know what we were doing. But even when I was a bit drunk playing it, I was still like, this is actually really fun. Like even playing this like without alcohol would have been amazing. I think just the fact that you can go through the game together, it's kind of like co-op but also competitive, because like you don't drag each other along. So if someone's on one level and they complete it, they'll be on the next level, but when it comes around to your turn, you're still on that other level, and you can get through, there's like secret exits and stuff, so you can try and skip ahead of other players, but it's like risky, and it's a hard game, Monkey Ball, as well, which made it even better, because when you pulled off something really cool, it felt amazing, even if it was unintentional. That was Monkey Ball 2, and I think we played a bit of Monkey Ball 1 as well, and I actually have got both the games there, but when I got them for the GameCube, I didn't really put too much time into them. And originally I actually got the deluxe version on the PS2. That's like a collection of 1 and 2 with a few extras. And that was fun, but it was at 30 FPS, unfortunately, on the PS2. So I was like, right, I'll come back to it at some point. You know, I was still really excited to play the games, like, but I really wanted to play it multiplayer. Like, Monkey Ball for me was more, I wanted it more for a multiplayer experience, like a party experience, instead of a single player one. And that's important, because that's what we'll get into in a minute. But Banana Mania was announced, and it was sort of rumoured for ages that they were going to do a remake of 1 and 2, or remaster, or what have you. And it came in the form of Banana Mania this year, and it was, at the time when it got announced, I was so excited. And to be honest, the trailer did a bad job, because when it showed all the games, it showed like all the games in the Monkey Ball series, and I was like, oh my god, are they putting every Monkey Ball game in here? Like, all of them? Like, that's insane, that's going to be insane value. No, they didn't. They just showed off a load of Monkey Ball games and went, yeah, but we're really remaking the first two. It was very strange how they did it. And when I got the game, I heard mixed things about it, unfortunately. I heard that the physics were different, and a lot of it came from, you know, not feeling like the original, or the original doing it a bit better. And I thought, well, I haven't played much of the original, so I might quite like it. Now, despite that, there is missing stuff here, and the biggest one by far is the fact that you can't play the story mode or the party mode multiplayer. That sucks. That is the biggest reason why I got the game, and unfortunately it's not there, and they don't seem like they're going to patch it in anytime soon. But no, they'll focus on the DLC and the millions of DLC for this game, the millions of overpriced DLC for this game. But yeah, no, don't focus on the thing that, you know, people actually love the original games for. So yeah, I was a bit salty about that, I won't lie. So it quickly became a thing where I realised this isn't really a multiplayer game for me, and so I decided to play for the single player, and I really enjoyed it. I loved the single player. It was such a fun arcade experience. I've got a few clips of me doing some really cool like speedrunning stuff, and I don't know, it made me really want to like get better at the game and stuff like that, and the later levels especially get really challenging, and it might not have the multiplayer stuff that I wanted, but the amount of single player content is great. There's loads there. There's a ton of modes. There's a story mode from 2, which I wish they would have separated more, because I don't think 1 has a story mode. So when you see story mode in this game, and you click it, you go straight into the story mode of 2, and I'm like, oh, I would have wanted to play, you know, the first game first, and then the second game after, because I think the second game has got one of the more complex levels and the more dynamic levels. So I've played the story mode and beat it, but I haven't really played 1 yet, if you get what I mean, because there's like 1's challenge mode and 2's challenge mode, and that's what the games are really. It's generally 2 that had a story mode, and I think it was to make it easier for beginners, because in this game, in Banana Mania, they've completely removed lives, so you can't get really a game over anymore. You just have to retry the level over and over again, which I don't mind too much, but I do, you know, it's one of them where it's like, well, I wish the option was there, that, you know, like, it's sort of like Crash 4 did. I didn't mention that talking about Crash 4, but you actually get to in that game you get to pick between modern and retro. You can go the game without lives, or you can go through the game with lives like you could before. In that game though, there's a fly there. In that game though, it was kind of slapped on. You could tell it was developed with the modern style in mind, because you get so many Wumpa Fruit in that game. Sorry, I'm going on the rant about Crash 4 now, but I forgot to talk about it in that bit. But yeah, you get so much Wumpa Fruit in that game, and that's to get the newly added gems, so people can feel, I don't know, happy about it or something, happy for getting Wumpa Fruit, I don't know. There's 3 gems in there that you get by just getting Wumpa Fruit now. And in the retro mode, you still get a life for getting 100 Wumpa Fruit. So it doesn't really matter, because by the end of the game, even if you're not that good at it, you should have a load of lives still, just because you get lives so easy in retro mode. So anyway, that's my little rant on the Crash 4 life system. But at least there you got the option, and here it would have been nice to have the option as well. I probably would have kept it off, to be honest, because like I said, the game does get hard, and it's nice knowing that you could be a bit more experimental about your choices in the levels, and yeah, you don't have to feel like you have to play super safe, because you'll get a game over and have to start like the whole world again or what have you. I'm not too sure where it kicks you back to in the original games, and then of course there is the party mode, the party games, which Monkey Ball was very much liked for, but I remember playing Banana Blitz and I thought the party games and that were shit. I mean, I know everyone thinks the whole game is shit, but yeah, for the most part, but no, I thought the party games and that were really bad. So I tried out a couple of the original party games on the original Monkey Ball games, and they were actually pretty fun, to be honest. You know, they weren't like massive, but they were fun. And in this game I tried them out as well, and I didn't notice too much difference. The physics are definitely a bit wonkier on some of them, and oh my god, I got it. I'm Spider-Man. Shut up, get rid of this. Now where was that? Wonky physics, that was it. Yeah, the physics are kind of wonky. It's not a massive deal, to be honest, in most of them. Like some of them are just okay. Some of them you can't really get wrong, like the monkey bowling, for example, and monkey golf I really liked as well. Monkey target was a big point of contention, because some people didn't really like the way it controlled now. It does control different, but I still think it's really quite fun, to be honest. I know, yeah, it definitely does feel better in the original, because I went back and played the original version of it, and it does feel better, but I can't really fault it. Monkey Race, Monkey Canoe, or whatever it was. Me, Tom and Gavin played that all the way through. We spent a whole day playing through them, and I think we agreed that most of them were all right. Monkey Target was really fun, but some of them were just really shit. And the worst one by far, the one that's completely unplayable, is the baseball. There's just, it's so the batter is never gonna win, because when you hit the ball, it doesn't go far enough. There's no power on the swing of the bat. And I don't know if we were doing something wrong, but I looked online and a load of other people were saying the same thing. So I don't know if that's how it worked in the original. I don't think it would have done. Like, people would have talked about it, right? So yeah, the party games in Banana Mania are very hit and miss, and which is unfortunate, because like I said, I bought the game to be a party game, and it just fell flat on that completely. It became a single player experience for me, which it's very good at doing, but if you're getting this to be a party game, it's not really, and it's unfortunate, because There's a load of stuff to do to customise your character this time, so there's more characters now than the original game. There was 4 in the original, I believe, and there's quite a few more now, with the option to buy even more from the in-game shop, with in-game currency, like Sonic, Tails, and then a few other Sega characters, which is really cool. There's a lot of DLC for the game, and it's kind of like, because the game doesn't feel complete, because it's missing that multiplayer mode, and some of the, party games don't work properly. By the way, this is as of this recording. I don't know if there's been actually an update, to be honest, to the game, but I haven't heard that there has been one, and I wasn't too long ago that I finished the game, so I'm assuming there hasn't been one, but I mean, I'll put some on screen if there is. Because there's this pricey DLC alongside I don't want to say incomplete game, because it's got a lot of content to it, but it's like, compared to the original games, you've got to sort of see what is missing, and there shouldn't be anything missing in this collection. It should be the all-encompassing Monkey Ball GameCube collection of that era. So yeah, the fact that it hasn't got everything there is quite disappointing. It is a disappointing release, but I can't deny that the main game is still a lot of fun, and I would like to go back to it and do the Monkey Ball 1 challenge mode someday. Yeah, because it was really fun. And the music was great too. That's another thing as well, is that they changed the music for the game. I'm not too sure if there was like licensing issues or what have you, which is a bit odd. You would have thought the music originally made for the game would have belonged to the game, but I think I actually, I'm not attached to that music, I gotta say. But this is the thing as well, is that you can buy, as DLC, you can buy the original soundtrack to play in the game. That feels like it's not a licensing issue. That feels like they've just took it out so they can put it back in later at a price. Where a load of other remakes, absolutely nearly every remake that's come out in the past couple of years has had the option to play the original game's soundtrack for free. Charging for that is insane. Like, this is what I mean. The DLC for the game just feels so greedy, unfortunately. Which is another thing you've got to take into account. Do you want to support this game or not? And I had the game pre-ordered anyway, and I was just so excited to have all the Monkey Ball goodness in one that I might have got a bit blinded by it, to be honest. But would I go back and buy the game? Probably not. No, not knowing that I can't do the co-op stuff, just because I could do all the Monkey Ball stuff in the original games, which I do have. So get this one with caution. But if you're excited to play the original Monkey Ball games on the Switch, go for it. It's a good purchase for that, and it's not full price. It's not really expensive. I don't like saying full price because it's a bit subjective, but I think I only got it for about £30, so it's not like £50, it's not like £40, so I think it's worth it for what's there. It's just unfortunate that it does feel incomplete altogether. Next up, the hardest game I played this year. Not hard as in difficult, just hard as in I struggled to play it. Subnautica. Now, first off, I just want to say that I'm really thankful that who published it? Bandai. I'm really thankful to Bandai for giving the Switch version of the game both games in one. It's actually got Subnautica, the first game, which came out a few years ago, I believe, and Subnautica Below Zero, which actually did come out last year. But you're getting both in one collection for the Switch, which is lovely. And I believe I think only Below Zero came out physically on the other versions, if I'm right, I think. The way I come across this game was a bit odd. It was one of them where, since Katana Zero, looking on the eShop, I've just been thinking, I'll see what takes my eye. There's a lot of shit on there, so very rarely does something catch me out. But I saw Subnautica, and I just, for some reason, it reminded me of the Echo the Dolphin game on the Dreamcast, and I'm very fascinated by just under the sea. It's a bit like the Antarctica. It's an area of the planet that humans just can't inhabit, so it just feels so mysterious and unexplored, and it's the not knowing that makes it so interesting. You're about to go to bed or what have you, and it says like, oh, you see a video and it's like top 10 underwater mysteries, and you're like, oh fuck it, go on then, and then that's it, you're down the rabbit hole for like half an hour, or longer, and that's what I'm like as well. I think the last time I did that, it was something like the 5 times that James Cameron went to the Titanic wreckage or something like that, and I just got so into it. Just the fact that they can go there, and it was this boat from like 100 years ago that they can explore, and it was great. It gives me goosebumps. I love it. That was the kind of thing that I thought might be prevalent in Subnautica. I thought, well, it's just an undersea exploration game, and I didn't know at the time. I thought it was just an exploration game, and then it's about £20 whatever on the eShop, and I thought that's a bit pricey to take a risk on a game that I don't really know anything about. So I had a look up at the game, and I saw fantastic reviews, and I thought it's getting really good reviews for just being an undersea, exploration game. And then I had a look and found out that it's really kind of a horror game. Yeah, It's a horror game. It's a horror game, but it's a Metroidvania horror game as well. It's very odd. It's not a horror game. It's like a survival game, but it's got big horror elements. The game was, as far as I know, heavily inspired by Minecraft because there's a crap ton of crafting in it. That's pretty much what everything revolves around. Is you crafting stuff to progress in the story in the game and that. But you know, unlike Minecraft, it's a set world, things to explore. There's places to explore. There's story to uncover, and that's how the game handles its story really, because you are ejected from this ship that crash lands on this planet, and your pod is the only one that seems to have survived. So when you wake up to this burning wreckage of your mothership, and you're like, oh shit, and you just that's pretty much it. That's how the game starts, and then off you go. And the game does give you, in the beginning, it gives you hints of what to do. You know, you have like a PDA system and what have you, and then as you get further into the game, there's no guidance whatsoever, and it can be very frustrating for that reason, but also very, very immersive. It's very open-ended in the way you do it, and the progression is kind of like Metroid Prime in a way. I always say this, but Metroid Prime is obviously not like this game, but in the terms of, you know, you go around and you scan optional logs and stuff like that. In Subnautica, you'll find PDAs of other crew members littered about, and you know, like audio logs, and you'll be able to see their story and what they're doing. And the bit I got most engrossed in was when I found this island and I found a PDA on there, and you find these PDAs out of order, so you find out what happens to these people at the end of their journey, and you're like, how did this happen? And then I remember at one point you find a PDA where they first got onto the island. It's like, right, we need to get out of here. We can't survive on this island forever. We need to go underwater and try and find some you know, food or something to set up a habitat so we can survive. And then you go down to the beach and you see another PDA, you pick it up, and it's the final PDA from their journey, and it's one of the guys, and he's like, we never should have gone down there. They don't want us down there. And it gives me shivers thinking about it now. But I was reading that, I was like, I don't want to go down there. I don't want to go down there. That's the scariest thing about the game, is you just don't know. It's the fear of the unknown and the sea. Like I said, I'm fascinated by it, but I'm also terrified by it. I got too scared to go in the water in Grand Theft Auto, not only because you died from it, but also because I was like, there's going to be sharks in there. There's going to be sharks in there, and I think it might all stem from the fact that I nearly drowned when I was younger. One of my friend's granddads ended up saving me. I was innocently snorkeling, and the wave was too violent, and it just took me, and he managed to get me out, and so that might be part of it. And the other one I think is because in a Tomb Raider game that I played with my mum on PC when I was younger, there's this level where this hammerhead shark is in this underwater cave with you, and he's fucking massive, and it feels like it feels like it's going to eat you at any time, and it was just terrifying. And I think that's where my fear of the underwater comes from. But it was like that level for the whole game. I was constantly on edge, like to the point where I could play the game for maybe I do something little. I'd be like, okay, I think I'm done for today. I don't know if I'm good with horror films. I don't mind horror films, but with games, when you're in there, I get terrified of it. I'm awful with horror games, and this isn't even fully horror, but it is. But the way it's made and the way it's done, I think it can be scarier than horror games, to be honest, because it's you're that unsuspecting of it. You're not really, you don't think these things will just come out of nowhere and get you. But then once, I think it's the first time, I was a bit scared anyway. But when you first see the stalker and what have you, if you played the game, you know what I mean. It's like this little swordfish. I was a bit scared of that, and I was like, alright, not too bad. And then, but it's where their habitat is. They're going between these big vines, and it really obscures your vision, so you can't really see where you're going, and it's terrifying. And then later on, I plucked up the courage enough, because once I found the ingredients to make the next item that you needed to progress in the story, I finally got to the big mothership wreckage, and going through there was amazing as well. I actually wish there was more areas like that in the game. And to be fair, there's like some bases and stuff that you can explore, but I wish there was more of them, just because that's where you get really, you're like, oh my god, I found something, and it gets really intense. As I'm going toward this big ship, I see something in the distance. On the way there's this big, massive Leviathan class creature, they call them, and it's like this, I think it's called a reefback, and I thought, I just stayed below him, and I was looking at that, and he looked friendly, and I was like, okay, not, and it said it's one of the biggest creatures on the planet, and I thought, okay, not too bad then. If this is the biggest creature on the planet, I don't think I'll get too freaked out by anything else then. I was wrong. I was so wrong. We went to the ship, and then I went round the back of the ship, and then all you heard was this loud roar, and I was like, what's that? And it looked like this big sea snake thing, and I can tell you now, going back to getting footage to show you this is going to shit me up even now, but you just see it, and I'm like, I remember when I first saw it, I thought, oh, maybe it looks nasty, but maybe it doesn't mind me, maybe it's maybe it's friendly, you know, a bit like Soccer off Last Airbender. But then I walked up to it, or swam up to it, sorry. I was sort of like, because that's the thing as well, you've got your scanner, like Metro Prime, and you can scan creatures so you can read what their biography is. And I was like, I really want to know what this creature's about. So I ran up to him, and like instantly he just grabbed me and started chomping on me, and I was like, I hated it. And after that, I was so terrified that one was going to come out of nowhere, because I mean the good thing is I could see that one before I went up and, you know, tried to scan it. But what if I couldn't see it? What if they just come out of nowhere? And there's stuff like that all over the game. You get hurt and you just like, what was that? And sometimes you can't even see it, and it's just terrifying. You just don't know what's going to come around the corner, and it's the strength of the game. It's by far the biggest thing, but it's what made it so hard for me to play. It took me ages to beat the game because of that. But it's also a creation game. You know, you can create your own habitat and make things easier for you. And you know, it's not just about the story, but you can, like I say, you can create big bases. You can create vehicles to traverse the underwater environment in. You can create stuff to fight these creatures. It's not about killing them per se, but like subduing them. You can kill them, but it's more about subduing them and what have you. It's an amazing game, it really is. It's just one that's very hard for me to come back to, and one that I enjoyed, but like the second game, for example, when am I going to play the second game? After playing this game, I don't know if I ever will, like being honest. So, I mean, I really like the game. I really did like Subnautica, but it was sometimes a bit too vague for its own good, because I'd have to go online and search up what to do next, because part of that was just the fact that I was just so terrified to explore on my own. Like, toward the end of the game, I started looking up things before I went there, just so I wasn't so on edge, because I was just like, it's making my back twinge, but I just couldn't do it. So maybe those kind of games start for me. But I got told after this, I think it was my friend was like, you should play Alien Isolation. And I was like, you're fucking mad! I don't think I could play another one of those games like that at the time anyway. And it was like it's a very isolating game. You're on your own for nearly all of it. And at the time, it was a bit of a down period for me, so I wasn't really doing much. I wasn't really seeing too many people and that. So it was not the game to play at all, to be honest. It did not help my mood whatsoever. And I think that's another reason why it was hard to play. So yeah, Subnautica, amazing game if you like those kind of games. For me, I really did like it, and I can appreciate it. It's probably a masterpiece, but it not being my kind of game does put it down a peg for me. Now, a game that is for me is Streets of Rage 4 Anniversary Edition. Now, this gets on as a kind of cheat, because Streets of Rage 4 came out the year before last year, 2020 it came out. But they re-released it in the form of Anniversary Edition in 2021, and that's how it's got on the list, the sneaky devil. But it was essentially a re-release of the game, but with the DLC all added in. New characters, new modes, new items and stuff you can pick up. If you give me a game all on the card with all the DLC included that's been out for years or what have you, an all-in-one encompassing package of this game, I'll lap that up every time. I love it. The reason why I got it is because I was wanting to play the Streets of Rage games. I wanted to play Streets of Rage 4 for quite a while, but I wanted to play the other games in the series, and that's kind of what I like doing, because I like playing the older games in the series first and then leading up to the newest ones, so I can appreciate the evolution of the games. Because I feel like if you play the first game in the series, you'll have a much easier, and then you play later game in the series, you can enjoy all the games then. But if you play the latest game in the series first, and then try to go back to earlier games in the series, you'll find it a lot more difficult, because you're used to how this game plays. Things haven't evolved, things have devolved, so it makes it harder for you to play, so you can't appreciate it as much. That's the way I like to game most of the time. And I managed to get it on the Sega Mega Drive Classics. Don't get me wrong, the collection is not the preferred way to play them. It's a great price. You get like 50 games on it, and all 3 Streets of Rage games are on there, but the input delay is horrendous. Luckily, you can rewind the game, so if you feel the game's been unfair to you, you can just rewind it and then sort of cheese the game a bit, which is what I did. But out of all of them, I probably enjoyed Streets of Rage 3 the most, just because you can do more combos and the characters felt more fluid and what have you. So going into Streets of Rage 4, I was really excited to play, because those games I had to play single player, but Streets of Rage 4 has online play, and me and my great friend Espio playing it through it together. And we've been having a blast. We're still doing it now. There's so much to do in it. We've done boss rush. I think we've done all of normal story mode on S rank. We're trying to do it on hard now. We just got our first S rank the other night. There's a great, but probably my favourite mode is the DLC mode, and that's the survival mode. And it's kind of like a roguelike beat 'em up kind of game. By the way, that is what this game is. It's a beat 'em up game, which I'll get to in a minute. Yeah, it's a survival roguelike beat 'em up game. So after you get put in an arena with all these enemies, you beat them up, you finish the round, and then 2 upgrades will show up, and then both of you can decide who should get the upgrade and what have you, and the upgrades are always random, so it's like, it's a roguelike in a way, but it's very, very well done. It's very addictive, and you get custom alternate moves for all the characters, even the older characters, because you can play as every variant of every character in this game that's ever been in the Streets of Rage series. So you can play as Axel in this game, you know, an older Axel with combos and how Streets of Rage 4 works, or you can play as Streets of Rage 1 Axel with like no combos, but he does a lot of damage, and he has like one special and all that. It's great. Like, you can do it. You've got Streets of Rage 1 characters, Streets of Rage 3 characters. It's got all of them here. It's brilliant stuff. Like, for fans of the series who've been fans for years, I bet this was just, for me it was brilliant. You know, I've only been a fan for like a year or so, but no, I loved it. And that's one of the things as well, I think, is if you go straight into this game without playing the original ones, you won't be able to appreciate that fan service as much, and luckily I did, so I was very grateful for that. But it's so satisfying, the combos, especially when you do it well with a partner, a co-op partner, the combos you can pull off, the synergy you can have, the different stages that are on offer, the music is absolutely incredible for the game as well. A couple of my favourite tracks would be the final boss theme and the elevator theme in level 9, I think it is. But even past that, there's great music on the survival rounds as well. This is one of my favourite bits, is that in the survival it comes up every so often, but in the main game, if you taser one of the arcade machines in the game, you can actually get like a bonus round, and it goes into old style Streets of Rage graphics, and you'll fight like old bosses and stuff like that. It's everything that a Streets of Rage game fan, everything that a Streets of Rage fan would want, I think. And yeah, it's absolutely the best beat 'em up game I've ever played. And that's one of the things as well, is that beat 'em up games for me, I've always liked them. I've not played a lot of them at all. The first one that I played, I think, was Double Dragon, but it was like a bootleg version of Double Dragon on one of those, like, you know, you get one of those joysticks that you can plug into a TV, plug and play game. It was in them, it had like 50 games on it, and one of them was this really bootleg version of Double Dragon, but I really had fun with it. It was really good. Ever since then, I've wanted another game like it, and I was going to buy the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle a few years ago, but I decided against that eventually, just because it didn't have a physical version in Europe. So yeah, I decided to get Streets of Rage 4, and it's fulfilled all my beat 'em up wants, at least for the next few years, definitely, especially with the amount of content it's got. So it is up there with the best games of this year for me, for sure. Next up is another collection, and that is Ori, the collection. So this is the biggest no-brainer deal this year, I think. The 2 games have been released physically, which is Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. They've both been released physically. Physically each, they're £30, £35. For the collection, I got this for 30 for both of them. And it's an amazing deal. You'd be silly not to get it, especially with the quality of the games here. Now, I haven't played both of them yet. I've only played Ori and the Blind Forest, and that was last year. And it was amazing, an amazing game. Just so beautiful in the way that it's done. It runs brilliantly on the Switch. It's one of the best Metroidvanias I've ever played, I've got to be honest. I can't really think of any downsides. The level design was immaculate. The music was amazing. Like, it wasn't amazing in the sense of I'd probably go listen to it outside the game, but in the game, it full on puts you in there, and it's, like I said, music to me is really important in games, and this is one of the games that I'll point to, because it really was brilliant. It's emotional, it's great. It's just a simple story, but it's a very well told simple story. And I'm really looking forward to playing the next one, Will of the Wisps, which I hear is even better. So, bloody hell, I don't know how it's going to manage that, but yeah, this is definitely one of the best Metroidvanias I've played. Ori is a dream to control, feels absolutely brilliant. I think the only thing that I could criticise the game for is possibly the map. There's no mini-map in the game, so you have to keep bringing up the map every so often. I mean, I would do that anyway, I reckon, but there's a lot of times where the map doesn't really communicate to you properly if you've missed an item or something, and I think I did 100% the game, yeah. For example, it'll tell you 100% when you've explored all of an area, instead of getting all the items in an area and then just filling in the map for you. So you'll have to explore literally every pixel of an area for it to be 100%. Don't think I like that. That's something that could be improved. Maybe it's improved in the second game, I don't know. But yeah, if you like Metroidvanias in any way, you should get Ori the Collection. It's one of the best deals this year. It might possibly be the best deal this year. And speaking of Metroidvanias, we're going to come to Nintendo's biggest release this year, I think, and that is Metroid Dread. So Metroid for me has been a series that I haven't minded waiting for, and when I say that, it might sound like I don't like the series. I absolutely love Metroid. I was a bit older when I got into Metroid. I was around 16, I think, when I first played Metroid. No, I lie. I was 15, because Metroid Other M had just come out, and that was my first Metroid game, which I love. I know not a lot of people do like it, but it was my introduction to the series, and it worked. I was in there. And I played Metroid Other M, then I played Metroid Fusion, which cemented my love for the series. And then I tried playing Metroid Prime. Didn't get into Prime for a long time. Then I went back to it and finished it, and I was all in. I love the Prime trilogy now. But yeah, Metroid Dread was one of the biggest surprises this year, I think, along with like WarioWare and Advance Wars, I'd say. But Advance Wars obviously got pushed back to this year now, 2022. But yeah, what an amazing surprise from Nintendo's E3. I unfortunately got it spoiled for me, but I mean, what does it matter really? Like, the game's coming. It doesn't matter if I know about it or not. I hoped it was good because, you know, a lot of people sort of criticised the series for becoming too linear. Even Metroid Samus Returns, which was based on the old Game Boy game, that was a linear game anyway, but it was still more of a linear experience. There wasn't a huge amount of sequence breaking or what have you. And I thought Samus Returns was great, but it was, for me, the weakest 2D Metroid out of the definitive versions that are out there now, which is Zero Mission, Super, Samus Returns, and Fusion. And Metroid 5 is Metroid Dread, and it's, you know, we've been waiting so many years for it. For me, I've been waiting, I guess, 10 years for it, but it didn't feel 10 years. Whereas other people have been waiting since like 2000, I think it was 2002 Metroid Fusion come out. So it was such a long time. And if you think about it, they said that this game here is the conclusion to this Metroid storyline. And the fact that it's taken 35 years to get there is just astonishing. 35 years to get to this point is crazy. I mean, I know Sakamoto really wanted to do it earlier, and that was one of the hype things about this game, was Metroid Dread was apparently in development for the Nintendo DS, but got put on hold because they just didn't have they didn't feel the technology was right to be able to do it. I'm not too sure what technology wasn't there. This is a very standard Metroid game, to be honest. It doesn't do anything like crazy new, which is fine for me because it's been so long since the last Metroid game that all they've done is refine what was already there. And it does feel like Samus Returns, and that's because the same developer, Mercury Steam, made it. But Samus this time is so fluid, so like almost too like sensitive on the stick. Like, you'll move a tiny bit and she like darts off, but she's so speedy. She's got a slide move now, so you can just keep up the speed. And I think that's why speedruns of this game are going to be really interesting. I mean, I know they have already, and that's one of the things as well, is that it felt beforehand, especially in Fusion, that maybe the developers wanted to stop players from being able to sort of speedrun with tricks and stuff like that. And that's one thing you got to give credit to the Dread developers, is that they have purposely not patched out certain glitches or certain tricks because they know it adds to the speedrun experience. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a Metroid speedrunner by any means, but it is a big part of what makes Metroid popular, is being able to speedrun it. For me, I just like the single player game. I just like going through it as they intended. And how is that? Amazing. A great Metroid game. Not my favourite, I don't think. I think I'm probably going to have to play it again at some point. But yeah, absolutely amazing. I think it is better than Samus Returns. I still love Samus Returns anyway. I think it's better than Samus Returns, but probably below the other three for me. Even though I've only played each 2D Metroid once, I really should play through them again. I wanted to play through them all, you know, before Dread come out, but there was just other things to play. So yeah, that's great level design. Very. And I'm trying to think that in the way, the order you get the items, it like teases you, because obviously you can see that there's something there, but you haven't got the items to be able to do it yet. So there is a lot of backtracking, which I think some people might like. Some people not so much. I didn't really mind it too much, to be honest. Later in the game you can teleport to certain areas, and the game needs to be a bit more clear that, you know, once you've unlocked all the teleporters, you can use any teleporter to go to any other teleporter, because for the most part, each teleporter is linked with another one, so you can only use that one to go to another one. But later in the game, you can just go anywhere you want. So the game could be more clear about that. You can now use stamps to sort of pin where you want to go on the map. There's a mini map in the corner, so you know exactly where you're going. The map is, you know, better than ever. The new addition to the game is Emmys. They're kind of like an SAX, but contained to a certain zone. And I did like that, because I remember before the game came out, I thought, oh no, are they going to be able to get you anywhere? And I didn't like that, because Metroid is all about atmosphere and intensity for the most part. So I think that Emmys being able to jump out at any point sometimes would take away from the taking in the sights and what have you. But I gotta say, this game does look good, but the art style, the art design, I think it falls a bit flat in some areas. Everything just feels really dark and a bit moody. Like, you've obviously got areas like that full of greenery, like the jungle place and the water place in that. The atmosphere they're going for is obviously that you're on your own and stuff like that, but I just wish that things are a bit more... You can feel like you're on your own, but still feel like it's an adventure, do you know what I mean? And other Metroid games do that really well. Samus Returns, I think, did a really good job of it. That's why I'm a bit surprised it didn't carry over to Dread, but like the music in this game, I'm not a massive fan of the music, I gotta say. It's just very atmospheric. It's like the Breath of the Wild problem. There's just not really any tunes to make you, oh fucking hell, yeah, Metroid, let's go. Like, no Magmore Caverns, there's no the famous water theme. That was in Samus Returns, just stuff like that. There's nothing like that here, and it just makes everything feel cold. And to be fair, maybe that works in its favour because it's the end of this long journey, this 35-year-long journey. It does feel flat in some areas because of that, and I think that's one of the reasons that doesn't elevate it above other Metroid games for me, like Super and Zero Mission and Fusion, because there's just not the music or the sound effects are great. The boss fights, I got to say, are the highlight of the game. They are they're so incredible. They feel great, like the attack patterns, it all feels, people said it's too difficult. I think the difficulty is perfect. I lost quite a few times on bosses, but it's one of them where you go in, you lose, and then you find, you get a bit better, and then the third time you'll probably beat them. There's also secret ways to beat the bosses as well, and unique ways to beat the boss, which is really cool. The melee counter is back, but you can do it while dashing or in the air, so you don't have to come to a standstill to do the melee counter. And you can pump, in a very cinematic way, pump them full of missiles like you could in Samus Returns. It's brilliant. Don't get me wrong, would I say it's worth the wait? I think it would be, because it has come out as an absolutely amazing game. I do want to play it again, to sort of get my bearings on it. I'll probably go through the series in chronological order now, because you can, because you have Zero Mission to Dread, you have definitive modern ways to play them, especially with like Zero Mission and Fusion, which I don't think have aged a day, like in terms of gameplay or the way they look amazing. And that's one of the things as well, is that in the old pixel games and the old sprite games, everything looks a lot more colourful, and in Samus Returns and Dread, it just looks a lot darker and colder, like I was saying, and I wish they could brighten up things a bit, and I don't think it would take away from the scary or the horror sort of feeling of the game, which it doesn't really feel like a horror game, especially after playing Subnautica, Christ. But Metroid Dread, I'd put it up there with a V4, I'd say. I don't think I loved it, but I did really like it. It is a brilliant game. So Metroid Dread is up there. I got the special edition up there, which I was really pleased with, because I haven't got a special edition for the Switch in quite a long time. So yeah, absolutely, give Metroid Dread a lovely little go. Okay, so this is the last recording session for this video. I've got an ill again. I don't know why it's always this video that puts me in the ill, but anyway, we're going to carry on. This should be the last one, so no more time-lapsing. Anyway, next up is Monster Hunter Rise. It's here, I nearly dropped it. So Monster Hunter is a series that I have never really gelled with. I originally got the original on, not the original, I originally got Monster Hunter Free Try on the Wii, and I think that was after the online service had shut down, so like I couldn't even play the online part of the game, which was apparently what was so good about it. Even playing through the single player, I really did try it, but it was the combat, it was just so slow and I guess deliberate is what Monster Hunter fans would call it. I just couldn't get into it. It felt like every time I got hit, it took me 10 years to get back up, and I didn't really know what I was looking for with the monster. I didn't know what the weaknesses were or anything like that. Just felt like a very archaic Monster Hunter experience, especially compared to Rise, which, I'll get into in a minute. Then I tried playing the demo for Monster Hunter 4, I think it was, on the 3DS. It was still the same for me. I just couldn't really get with it. But Rise come out, and I'm not too sure what made me pick it up, to be honest. I think it looked a lot faster for starters, and there'd been a lot added to the Monster Hunter series since 3 Try and 4. And also, a lot of people talked some high praise about Monster Hunter World and how much more accessible it was and how much more fun it was, I guess, than other Monster Hunter games. Because I did have Monster Hunter Generations, I believe, on the Switch, but I never played it. I ended up selling it quite a bit ago. But yeah, Monster Hunter Rise, I decided to pick it up, and I really tried to get into it this time. And I did, luckily. I found it to be a fantastic experience, and I think it all comes down to the fact that the combat is a lot more responsive. It's not, do you know what I mean? Like, when you start an attack, you've still got to think about what you're doing. The weapon I chose is actually one of the slower ones in the game, which is the Melody Hammer, or whatever it's called. But that was one that really spoke to me, and I found it really interesting. And that's something that wasn't in the other games. That's brand new to this game, I'm fairly sure. And there's a load of different weapon types you try out and get good at. To be fair, even though I've I think 90% of my playtime has been with the melody hammer thing. It's all I've needed to enjoy the game. I completed the single player campaign. Actually, I don't know if I have. I did it before it got the update that added like another ending to it, which was a bit weird, but I beat the base game, I guess, without all the updates and that, and I had a lot of fun with it. I haven't really played much of the multiplayer, which is the game's strongest aspect, so the fact that I enjoyed the single player as much as I did said a lot. And it's not just you going out and hunting monsters and stuff like that. Now you've got like a tower defense sort of game on the side as well, which was pretty fun. It wasn't better than the actual monster hunting and stuff like that, but the thing that makes the game so much more fun now is the fact that you can, I mean, for starters, the quality of life updates, like, you know, micromanagement, explanations of what monsters are weak to what, is a lot more apparent, I think. I think if you're a newcomer going into this game still, you still might get a bit overwhelmed with the menus and stuff at first, but they're not really that hard to figure out once you've been playing the game for a bit. You got an upgrade system that you can upgrade all your weapons and stuff like that. That keeps the gameplay loop going because you're getting materials from monsters and stuff like that. And it really is just about fighting monsters. You know, the story's naff. I mean, the story ain't great, to be honest. And I thought at first, because of how detailed this world was, because the game does look incredible, by the way. It's one of the best looking Switch games, I've got to say. I don't know how they've got it running on the Switch with how good it looks, because there wasn't really any frame drops either. It is 30 FPS, I do believe, but the terms of detail and everything that's on there, the fact that there's no frame drops, especially with how big some of these monsters can get, is amazing. That's one of the biggest feelings of progression you get from the game, is you start off with like these more tiny monsters, and then you slowly get up to like the really big monsters, and you're like, oh shit, what's this going to do to me? But it all comes back down to the fact that you've got a new mechanic called the wire bug, and this thing lets you like around like Spider-Man a bit. You can run up walls with it, you can parkour along walls, you can use it to get up to higher areas and traverse in ways that you couldn't before in Monster Hunter. And there's secret things to find in all the different areas as well, which was really cool. That's literally alone, I think, what made the game more enjoyable for me, especially because you can do things like, you can do wire bug attacks to knock them out, and then you can mount them, and then you can attack other monsters with the monster that you've mounted. And yeah, it's just, you can do so many cool things with it, especially because it's got like destructible terrain and stuff like that. You're like, yeah. And even though you have to fight monsters more than once, for example, to get more materials, like that, because fighting monsters is so fun, you don't really mind the repetition of it, because it's a very repetitive game, don't get me wrong, but it's a bit like the Warriors games in a sense, where even though it's repetitive, it feels satisfying still. And I can't really say I got too bored of Monster Hunter at any point, really. And I think that would go double more so if I played a lot of multiplayer, which I haven't yet. But yeah, I wanted to jump into that, especially with the DLC that's coming out soon, the Sunbreak expansion, which this game's been getting a lot of DLC, I will say, which has been cool, like with all the different Capcom costumes and stuff like that, like Amaterasu and Rush. Is it Rush? Rush from Mega Man. It's cool, they're really cool additions. I wish they were in the game from launch, not to make it seem like a live service game, but I'm pleased. I'm pleased with Monster Hunter Rise, and I could definitely recommend it if you've played a Monster Hunter game before and you haven't really enjoyed it. I would say give this game a go, because the wire bug moves and the way you can get around, and one of the biggest things is when you get knocked over, instead of taking 10 years for you to get up, you can just wire bug. You can use one of your wire bug usages. Oh, that's not a word, is it? Uses. There we go. Jesus Christ. You use one of your wire bug uses and you can get back up, but obviously it's the risk of, do I get back up and use one of them, or do I save it for a special attack? So yeah, Monster Hunter Rise was excellent. Now this year I didn't really play too many RPGs. I had a year where I was like, I'm going to play some of the smaller games on my backlog. But toward the end of the year, I did end up getting one for Christmas, and that was Shin Megami Tensei 5. And it sort of just reminded me why I love JRPGs so much, and just RPGs in general. After not playing one for so long, this is my genre. This is what I love doing. It was a new RPG genre, a new RPG series for me to get into. You know, I've heard so much good things about the Shin Megami Tensei series, especially because of Persona, which is, weirdly enough, is the spin-off to Shin Megami Tensei, but it's become, I guess, a bit more popular, especially in the West anyway, than Shin Megami Tensei, I think. But I don't know why, because Shin Megami Tensei 5 was easily one of the best games I played this year. I know I've said that a lot in this video, but this one is, it's gonna be, I still haven't decided what my game of the year is, and this one is definitely one of the contenders, because it's long. This is what I mean, like, I usually have the argument with someone where, would you rather play one 80-hour game or 5 20-hour games or something like that? I would definitely rather play one 80-hour game, especially if it's as good as this, because you just get into it so much more. Well, I get into it so much more than other games, and yeah, binged it. Had a great time with it. It was my main game. It was one of those ones where when I finished it, I was like, what am I going to do now? You know, a hole is gone. It's about a student who gets put in this post-apocalyptic world, demons running about, and it's kind of like a lot of people say it's like a mature Pokemon game where you know, the demons are like monsters, and they're all drawn from different parts of mythology, like different religions, and that, yeah, it's a very, it's got a lot of religious like so much religious context to it, and it was really refreshing, really, because it's themes that you don't see many games tackle, and this one was like, it was all there, and it was so interesting to see the kind of designs they'd done for all these different like deities and creatures for every religion, for every faith, and it was amazing to see. And you had like a little description of each one, and you get to learn, like, you learn stuff about religion because of it, and that was cool, actually. It was stuff that I didn't know before. The designs for the demons are what makes the game. Like, they're so ingenious and so interesting. That's the game overall, I'd say, is the demons are what makes the game. Like, even in the story, the human characters are just, like, you don't give a shit about them. They're very, very typical anime-y kind of characters. You know, you're silent but strong, I guess. There's a whiny little bitch character who ends up getting stronger later on, but he is still a whiny bitch in my eyes. I never liked him, ever. I never felt sympathy for him or anything like that. I thought, man up, you fucking piece of shit. Anyway, there's the rival character. This is the thing, really, is that there are multiple endings to the game, which is something cool for future playthroughs, but it felt like, really, it wasn't choices you made throughout the game, it was just one choice at the end that made it made the ending what it is. So I'm not too sure if it is that way, but that's kind of how it felt. There are other things in the game that say that if you choose a certain dialogue option, it'll put you in disadvantage later on in the game. But if you choose a one, it'll put you in an advantage situation for the game. But you don't know which one is which, and I liked that. That was cool, because I thought, oh wait, if I didn't answer this, then that wouldn't have happened, and I would have been able to do this, and yeah, that kind of thing. So multiple playthroughs are going to be really interesting, especially because you have got the Pokemon aspect of your team members are you and whatever demons you recruit. You recruit them by talking to them. You have some really funny interactions with them, and this is the thing. The game is actually quite funny. Like, there's a lot of smart dialogue in there, a lot of smart writing in there for the demons. The demons most of the time are like these hideous creatures you've got to battle, but sometimes they'll just be stood there waiting for you to talk to them. Some of them are kind, some of them are nice, but even though they look disgusting. And the music, oh my god, the soundtrack was incredible. It's probably got my favourite boss theme for an RPG in quite a while. I'll just play a little bit of it now for you. Yeah, when that hit the first time in the boss fight, I was like, "Jeez, this is really good." So yeah, I'm a Shin Megami Tensei fan now. I can definitely say that. I love the game to pieces, and I've actually got the Shin Megami Tensei 3 remaster that came out for the Switch earlier this year. I didn't put any time into it. I wish I'd played that before this one, because I think going back to that one is going to hinder my experience of it a bit. But no, 5 is definitely up there with some of the greatest games on the system, and it was one of the greatest games I played this year for sure. Now, the last physical game I picked up this year was the Danganronpa Decadence or Descendants collection. So, as you can probably tell by my love for Ace Attorney, I've become a bit of a fan of visual novels, and I heard that I actually didn't know that Danganronpa was a visual novel. I mean, I looked at the gameplay and it was like, it looked like it had just so many different kind of gameplay styles to it, but it kind of looked like a visual novel, and I was like, it's a collection of the trilogy of the games. I think there's only 3 games, and then there's like I dropped it. Don't break, please don't break. But yeah, there's a trilogy of games, and then there's a side game which is based on a mini game in Danganronpa 3, I think. I've only played the first game all the way through, and it's the most recent game that I finished, actually, so I was able to finish it for this video. I think I actually mentioned that collection earlier in the video, maybe. I actually did finish one of the games for the video, so I can judge it as such. And I got completely invested in it. It's been out for a long time now, Danganronpa, and it's been cool that I haven't really been spot on it. I only knew the bear. Like, I saw the bear everywhere. I wondered what that was about. But the story is essentially, I won't spoil anything for it, because I really do think that if you haven't played the game before, you owe it to yourself to go in as blind as possible, like I've done. The first game, anyway, because that's what I'm judging this collection on, because, again, like many collections on the Switch, unfortunately, it's not really, I haven't got software for the game. You know, you don't boot the game up, and then it comes up with a nice menu of all the games on there, and different extras and stuff like that. But because each game is the anniversary edition of said game, each game has artwork for you to unlock in the game itself. You know, celebrating with content for the second game will be in the second game. That was very hard to explain for some reason. Back to the story, sorry. The story is about this group of students who end up going to this school, and they end up in this death game thing. That's where the bear comes from. The bear pops up and he's like, right, you've all got to stay here forever, but if one of you can kill one of the others and then get away with it via a class trial where everyone else tries to figure out who did it, if the killer can get away with it, then they'll graduate and be able to leave the school. And so everyone, is very hesitant to kill each other, but then they all start learning stuff about each other, and that's the strength of the game. Really, is not only the narrative, but the characters are fantastic too. The characters, they're obviously like done for many different anime stereotypes, but it's a long time since I've watched an anime show or played a game where you've had those archetypes right in front of you. So the music was also excellent as well. Like when the class trials get going, it gets really intense, and that's one of the good things about class trials is a lot of the game you've got like voice snippets. Like someone will say something and then the character will say a voice clip that sort of encapsulates what they're trying to say. But in the class trials, everything is fully voiced, as well as some other text as well, which was very much appreciated. And that's really all I can say about the game, to be honest. I love the story of it. I'm very interested to see where the story goes now in the other two games. And it's one of them where, like, again, I binged it, so now I finished it, I'm like, oh, what do I do now? But I want to leave some time before I jump into the second game. I don't want to just binge it all and be like, oh shit, none left now. I would definitely give the first game a V5 out of V5. I have heard that these ports for the Decadence or Descendants collection, whatever, they're actually the mobile ports, and they're not perfect because of that. And they actually sometimes do get a bit laggy on Switch. Not to the point where it bothered me, but it's something to note, if you've got a principle against buying shitty mobile ports. Unlike that, the Grand Theft Auto trilogy which come out, you can't really get too much wrong with a visual novel. I didn't even know that they were mobile ports until about halfway through the game when I had to look up a bug, because there was a bug where percentage was in the sentence, like the percent sign. It would just not do the rest of the sentence, so you couldn't read the rest of the sentence. It would just stop at like 100. And I always thought it was a bit weird. But recently they have actually patched the game, like literally days ago they patched the game, so now that bug is no longer there. So they are looking to improve the game, so I think there's no reason why you shouldn't pick this collection up. And if you can get it physically, I'd definitely go for that, because I reckon this is going to be a rare game in a few years' time. So the next game I'm going to split into, I'm going to sort of join them together, and that's Tori 3D and Tori 2. Now these games were such a big surprise to me this year, because it came out around the time that Balan Wonderworld came out. I actually saw it from a Nintendo Life video that said the $1 game that plays better than Balan Wonderworld, and I was like, that's an interesting title. You've got me, you've clickbaited me, and I've taken the bait. So I watched it, and it was just like this really PS1 kind of 3D platformer with like some weird elements, is what they say on the in the blurb of the game. And so I picked it up for myself because it's so cheap. Why not? In fact, I think I got it for free because of the gold points I had. And it was like a quick hour of gameplay, but it was so good. It was so addicting. Like, the music is great. It's very poppy, kind of. It reminds me of Katamari music a bit, actually, especially the second game, Tori 2. And that's why I've put them together, because they're essentially the same game. Like, the first game is 8 levels or something, and actually got added another 8 levels added to it with an update, so you got 16 levels there. Collected all the stars that are in the level. I tried to go for all the A ranks. I later learned that there were S ranks and decided I'm not doing that. They are really good games that you can just play for an hour if you've got an hour spare. So even though there's not much to them and they're so cheap, like they're just so good for value for money, I'd say. I've got like 4 hours out of them for nothing. So yeah, I put them up there with, I really like these games. Give them a V4, I would say, both of them, because not one of them is better than the other, I'd say. But yeah, there's more Tori games coming out. I'd love that. I hope the next one is a bit bigger, because I wouldn't mind buying more, $1 games from this developer who's made quite a few different low budget games. But I'd love like a full game from him. I'd have to pay a decent amount of money for a bigger version of what he's already given us here. So yeah. And the final game I'm going to talk about this year is Eastward. Now this is, I think it's Pixpil who made the game, an independent studio from China, I believe. And this game I have talked about before. It was one of the games I talked about in my Games of 2020 video, I believe. It was a game I hoped would come out in 2021, and it did, luckily. It came out toward the end of the year. It's a game I've been looking at for a couple of years now, because of how it looks unbelievable. Like, it is the pinnacle of pixel art, or pixel art games that have been out so far. I can't really exclaim how the presentation for this game is the thing that carries it, because it is. It looks amazing. It's got an amazing soundtrack. It's great. It really is. And then you get to the gameplay, and the gameplay is very solid. It's very solid. It's sort of a cross between Zelda and, well, no, I think it's more of a Zelda. It's like a cross between Zelda and Earthbound in a sense, because it's got RPG elements to it. I really hoped that it wasn't roguelike. Oh my god, when I started seeing some of the trailers for it, I was like, this looks like it could actually be a really good story-driven game. Please do not make it roguelike. And it wasn't, luckily, thank god. So the game is about this guy, I always want to call him Flint because he looks like Flint from Mother 3, but he's actually called, I can't remember his name. I cannot remember his name. Christ, I got it in the end. It was John. John, that was it, yeah. Phew. But anyway, it's about John, and he, right at the start of the game, there's a really cute little animation with an amazing piece of music playing that sort of shows you stuff about the game. It shows you John finding Sam, a little girl with bright white hair, and she's got psychic abilities. The game sort of starts off quite slow, and I to be honest, the game has pace issues all the way through, I'd say. And it's one of those things where it looks so good and it plays good as well, and it just, like, the atmosphere of the game is so, I think the presentation does carry the game for sure. And for their first game, they've done a really good job with it. It's just a shame really that sometimes the game meanders a bit. Like chapter 1, it just didn't pull me in like I thought it would. I think the first chapter should have been John finding Sam instead of Sam already being with him, because I don't know, it didn't feel like there was much of a hook to keep you playing. Do you know what I mean? And there isn't really stuff explained in the game. Like, stuff will happen and you'll just be like, well, what's going on here then? But it doesn't really focus on that. Like, when the game gets good though, oh my god, it's masterful. Like, I would say about halfway through the game, a couple chapters before the last one is the pinnacle of the game, I'd say. Very, very good stuff. And then after you've done that, I'm like, oh shit, like I really want them to carry this feeling for the rest of the game. And then the next chapter sort of goes back to being a bit goofy in a way, and I think that is very much inspired by Earthbound and Mother 3, because serious stuff happens in those games, but then it goes back to being a bit goofy. But I feel like those games did it a lot better, because Eastward, it's frustrating sometimes, and just in like some missed potential, I guess. Especially after you get to the main city, the game does slow down quite a bit to do a lot of character building. That character building is warranted, by the way, but at the same time it focuses on the characters when there's like a bigger thing going on, and you're like, well, where's that come from? And it just didn't feel like it ever explained it properly. So I come away from the game thinking that was very good, but I feel like not everything was clear, and it sort of just wanted you to go along with it instead of questioning it. And I did question it sometimes. I think it's just because I had such big expectations. I thought this was going to be like a new indie masterpiece. I can't say it really is. If I think about it, it's very good. And it is very good. I think you should play it for yourself, just for the presentation and the story and that. Again, the story it's very good. And like I said, when it gets good, it is very good. Like, I just wish it was like that all the way through the game. Like, there's certain chapters and certain moments that are just amazing, but then in between that is stuff where you're like, I wish more would happen. I wish more would keep me hooked into the game instead of me playing it out of like sort of obligation to finish it. There's a fun side game called I think it's called Earthborn, that's it. It's like a Dragon Quest Earthbound combination, I guess. It's like its own early RPG, which is really cool because you can collect other stuff for it to alter the game in some way. Yeah, that's really cool. It's a really cool distraction, but it's one of them where you think, that's a really cool distraction in this like 25-hour game, but I would have liked for that to be maybe put into the main game and I don't know. It's a very divisive game, I think, overall. And for me, I did really like it, but it could have been like the game of the year. It could have been. I don't quite think it matched up to that. It's a very hard game to talk about. I think if I had to talk about it fully, if I did like a full video on it one day, I'll be able to really dissect it and tell you really what my issues are with it. For now though, very good game, just hindered by pacing issues, not an incomplete story, just a story that wasn't explained fully to my satisfaction. But again, like the presentation and the music, excellent stuff. I cannot wait to see what Pixel do next, and if they improve on what they've got here, the foundation is set. If they can improve on what they've got here, they could make the game that I thought we were going to get the first time. So yeah, that's it. That is all the games that I played this year. I don't think I've missed any out. This year has been such an incredible one for gaming for me. It feels like every game that I've played is going to be games that I'm going to be playing for a long time. And for me, I think the only clear contenders for Game of the Year this year are Crash 4, Shin Megami Tensei 5 and the Danganronpa collection. I'm not going to give it to the Danganronpa collection, but for as much as I enjoyed it, it's still a mobile port and they could have ported the native versions and made it run a bit better from the get-go. That's just my way of trying to thin it down a bit, I think, so I won't give it to Danganronpa. So it's between Crash 4 and Shin Megami Tensei 5 for me, and if I think about which one I enjoyed more, I think it might be Crash 4, you know. Just slightly, maybe. I might not even like Crash 4 more, but I feel like that's the one that deserves the Game of the Year for me. I know that it came out the year before on other systems, but it came out this year on Switch, and it was just such a wonderful love letter to Crash Bandicoot, and in a way, for me, it was exactly what I wanted from a Crash Bandicoot 3 sequel. It pokes fun at the series, it introduced new elements, the redesigns were a risk that I think paid off because they're wonderful redesigns. The music was some of the best in the Crash series as well, which I thought nothing would ever come close to Crash 3, but the music is great, especially a few tracks. Characterization of the characters has never been better, and the level design has just been top notch. Like, I didn't think it could be expanded upon any more than it was, but it is. It's got so much content there, there's skins for you to get, which I don't really use too much, but they're there if you want them. If you loved the original 3 in any capacity, please pick this one up, especially because I don't think it sold that well, unfortunately, and I think that's what made Activision think, oh, people don't want Crash, they just wanted the nostalgia for the original trilogy. But I would definitely play a Crash 5 if it come out. I'd be one of the first in line to get it. So Crash 4 is my game of the year. Crash 4, it's about time. It is about time. I want to give the series as well some love that I don't feel like I give it too much, and even though Shin Megami Tensei 5 was so close to, like I said, those 3 games especially, and even other games this year like Mario Party Superstars, you know, they could all be in the V5 sphere. Any of them could be game of the year for me, but for me it was Crash 4, I think. So that's all I have for you this year, guys. I hope it's been a decent watch, and I'll see you in the next Fat Thoughts. So goodbye.